We are mind. Not even beings of mind, but mind itself. And mind has no boundaries. Mind is infinite. Infinite creative intelligence, infinite joy, infinite love, infinite power. But mind has a tendency to dream. And when mind creates a dream, it enjoys fooling itself into thinking the dream is a real world. And that world then becomes a boundary within the boundarylessness of real mind, a false frame of reference, a false paradigm created as the dream blocks out the infinite nature until one awakens from that dream. And mind has many, many levels to it. To simplify, we could say, yes, the mind itself is infinite, oceanic, limitless, timeless, beyond all structuring laws. It is the lawgiver, the lawmaker. It is alive in total freedom that cannot be controlled. But then it creates levels of mind within that, like those Russian dolls, one nested within the other. And then at the smallest level of mind, you think you are one of those little body dolls that lives in a mortal organism in a strange world. And that mind has its own dream. And it doesn't know that that dream is within a larger dream of the soul that dreams of an entirely much more beautiful, unimaginably adventurous quest that takes many lifetimes and encounters many worlds that it dreams. And beyond the soul mind is that infinite mind, the dreamer itself. And until the shell of the ego mind, until its dream is broken through, it cannot appreciate the mind of God, or even its own soul mind that has brought it through all of time and space, that is part of its dream nature as it wanders through the collective dream of all of the souls simultaneously dreaming history. But we dream wanderers come to the end of our wandering at some point, and we begin wondering about who we really are. When the ego dream has become more of a nightmare, and there is an intense desire to awaken. And this happens at the end because the ego dream is a reaction to the family system in which it is born as an organismic package of protoplasm, and that family system at the end of Kali Yuga in a capitalist society that is extremely narcissistic, materialistic, consumeristic, filled with the goals of personal power and prestige and control, that ego, in reaction to that family system, and particularly to dominant parents and to a relationship that it sees of them that is not loving, a relationship in which one is either smothered or abandoned or both, but in which the other's demands impinge upon one's ability to dream oneself. And the ego then becomes a defensive shell. And it either becomes compliant or it becomes oppositional to that system. But that becomes a veneer around a core of complete confusion. A complete confusion that is also filled with hatred, because it was not allowed to dream its own dream. It was not allowed to become its full potentialities. And so the outer shell of the narcissistic ego is a defense against its own inner core that is actually psychotic, because it does not know who it is. And it has to keep that shell very strong and rajasic to run away from it. Because if it collapses into that shell, it's indeed afraid of depersonalization of a very malignant kind. And it's only when you know that you can break through the shell and go into a higher dream, and ultimately into the arms of the dreamer who is completely benign and merciful and beautiful and joyous, that the salvation from one's ego hell can be attained. But we are inherently, always, the infinite mind, dreaming that we have become human beings in a world. Even now, if you sit in silence, you will realize that you are consciousness, you are presence, and your body is within your mind, not your mind within your body. And you will realize that all of space, all that is perceived through all the senses, is your mind itself. There is no world. There's a projection of a belief that the information your mind is dreaming is coming from outside. But that's part of the self-deception known as Maya. It's all your dream. It's all your own mind. And whatever kind of a world that you are projecting is projected by that self-deceived, reactive consciousness that has been conditioned by negative, unloving environments to have a paranoid attitude toward reality, a reality that one could not trust. But the real distrust is the distrust that you must have of your own beliefs. The worst situation one can be in is to believe that your ego mind is telling you the truth. If you believe the ego's thoughts, you cannot escape paranoia. And you cannot escape the need to run away from yourself because of that core of psychotic fury and rejection of the projected reality that you are dreaming. And a consequent desire to control it. And this is where the death drive arises, when it cannot be controlled. and one needs to get out of one's mind because it's become unbearable. But shooting yourself in the head will not kill the mind. It will just shift the dream into a worse nightmare. And so the only thing to do is to very softly and gently allow the ego to dissolve so it no longer creates its own affliction and suffering, and open up to your natural bliss in the infinite mind and discover who you really are. This is the only redemption, and you can only give yourself that redemption. And it can only come from your realization that you are not finite, you are not bound by time, you are not mortal, you are not the product of conditioning of a social order and a family system. You are sovereign, and to reclaim the sovereignty of consciousness, to redream your dream, and to transcend all dreams, one must be willing to break through all of the attitudes, all of the paradigms, all of the beliefs of the ego that constitute and sustain that suffering. And when one breaks through that permeable boundary that is permeable, as soon as one wishes to transcend the finite defensive stance within the dream, there is an immediate opening to the reality of that creative intelligence that is able to see the world with new eyes. And finally, with the eye of the real, the eye of Shiva, the eye that recognizes this is all your own creation. And you are the creator. And you are free.